Hello everyone. I put part one out almost a year ago, and at that time hadn't really got into getting my research out to the public. Now I'm putting all that research out there, and I want to discuss this site again. I'm telling you all, this is the most important site in the Americas, and no one is talking about it. Xihuacan is an ancient city on the Pacific coast of Mexico. It's as large, if not larger, than Teotihuacan, and soon everyone will realize a much more important site in the past, and people get ready for it now as well. And by the way, only 2% of the entire ancient city has been excavated. Sucks for us that a modern village was built on top of portions of the ancient metropolis. The stela you see here is in the municipality of Petatlan, in the small village of La Soledad de Maciel, state of Guerrero. Xihuacan is here, again partially underneath this village. So the stela was discovered in 1944 within the village. Artifacts were being located all over the place since the late, probably 1920s. It's here at a tiny church in La Soledad de Maciel that the stela now sits. Twice burglars have attempted to take the stela, only to be stopped both times by a huge mob that formed from the village. So Xihuacan is said to be as old as Teotihuacan, spanning occupation from a pre-classic period to post-classic period. And I can tell you the site is older than that. Artifacts dating before these periods have been found and are hidden away by the locals in the village. Why, you ask, would they do that? Because about half of the artifacts seen at the museum in Xihuacan came from one man who had been treasure hunting and collecting these articles for 30 years. The local anthropologist, along with the federales, executed a search warrant at his home and confiscated everything they could find. They missed about 40 or so pieces that he and his parents are still in possession of. I paid his mother a fee to view and photo the pieces. These are some of the pieces still in that private collection. Many pieces are Teotihuacan style, showing that those from the great site north of now Mexico City were coming all the way to Xihuacan. The location, located on the west coast of present-day Mexico at the Pacific Ocean, was beyond important. Was it just for trade from groups coming from the Pacific and Orient? I don't believe so. There was more going on here. And yes, I said it, trade from all over the world was taking place here. The site's called Xihuacan, meaning place of the people who control eternity. A more precise interpretation would be place with the owners of time or the calendar masters, but the anthropologists kind of get upset if you call it by these more precise translations. But think about its name. Were there people or someone or something else that manipulated space and time living among the population at the site? Stories from many Mesoamerican cultures speak of this in their oral traditions. Have we now identified that location? The artifacts are amazing, and remember, only 2% of the site has been excavated. Imagine what is yet to be found. And the cultures, the civilizations that gathered here came from everywhere, including the Olmec, the oldest Mesoamerican culture we know about, or at least willing to admit existed. Who the Olmec were remains a mystery. I've discussed this in my prior presentations that they were a melting pot culture, very similar to present-day United States. All you have to do is look at their artifacts to realize you can see variation in the models and subject matter, matching groups we're familiar with from all different locations around the world. Something a long time ago was bringing people to present-day Mexico, and it wasn't just to trade. It had to have been something far more important. Now I'm going to get a lot of pushback from anthropologists and archaeologists and their followers that refuse to accept any type of new truth, which is that what they were taught, what I was taught, isn't completely correct. But they still will stick to their old beliefs until the day they die, which is fine. When that day comes, then we can advance towards the truth about humanity's past and the past of other beings that existed before mankind and during mankind. These beings could very well have been the deities of our ancestors. Archaeologists say the area is distinctive among Mexican ruins because it was a multicultural, ceremonial center, having been used for the worship of different gods by a pantheon of the country's pre-Hispanic tribes. I wonder if anyone has ever considered those gods having been living entities instead gathered at this location. When I spoke with the site archaeologist Rodolfo Lobato, he stated that artifacts found in the ruins show that Cuitlatecas, Tarascans, Mixtecas, Aztecs, Zapotecas, Totonacas, Toltec, Olmec, and others all showed up here for ceremonies at different times over many centuries. He even stated there was evidence that the Maya gathered at Xihuacan, far from their homeland in the east, over 470 miles away. These groups didn't exist at the same time, mind you. We're talking about thousands of years between some of these distinct cultures. Why was everyone coming back here? And by the way, that archaeologist doesn't know about this vase. If he did, he would know for sure that the Maya were here. Xihuacan was wiped out by very large tsunamis. The mud and sand deposited from the large cataclysmic event helped substantially in covering up the city, helping it to remain hidden away from modern-day man until the mid-20th century. Groups continued to live in the area. It was just that most of the city became forgotten about over time, as it mostly lay hidden under debris and plant growth. In modern time, few know of the site outside of western Mexico. It's rarely discussed, occasionally talked about by very few people. Oral traditions of many Mesoamerican cultures talk about the Yuemas and Kinametsen giants. Creatures resembling man and beast at the same time are also discussed. It was said by some Western Mesoamerican cultures that those before them, those beings that were different than man and gods to the Mesoamericans, gathered along a coast where they had items unique to only them. The few had inland and that many came to trade for. So that place had to be here, in the place with the owners of time, with the calendar masters. The pyramid that has been excavated is unique. It was covered completely in a clay that had survived over 3,000 years and still cannot be duplicated. And trust me, many social scientists have attempted to create the clay. When you stand on that pyramid, you're standing on energized ground. You just feel different. The center on top of the pyramid is a hot spot for the paranormal, especially UAP and UFOs. But I already discussed this in the original presentation on my YouTube channel. You can watch that there to get a better understanding of the paranormal aspects of this place. Only a couple other structures have been excavated. All of them can be visited. Almost everywhere you look shows another structure buried, waiting to be excavated in order to give up its secrets that have been held onto for hundreds, if not thousands of years. At Xihuacan, we have the second largest ball court ever discovered in all of Mesoamerica in present-day Arizona. The only larger ball court is found in Maya land, the Yucatan, at a site many of you know, Chichen Itza. Another very important site that came much later in time and lasted far less than what we're looking at here. Only the Maya were at that location. Remember, the Maya traveled hundreds of miles over a period of thousands of years to come to this location, the place where gods walked with man, where trade items from across the sea were imported and Mesoamerican exports left from there. The architecture that went into designing this ball court speaks for itself. Its importance remains a mystery. The stone monument bearing the real name of the entire city, Xihuacan, was located, buried within the ball court. It was purposely deposited there hundreds of years ago so that it could be saved from what remains a mystery. Skulls were kept in racks that were set atop this spot at the far end of the inner portion of the ball court. It remains a mystery if the heads belong to the losers or the winners of the game. The ball court goal was found completely intact. Xihuacan was not just a ceremonial center. This is old and outdated thinking, a product of the 19th century anthropologists. The stonework gave us the name of the site. It's very rare to know what a place was truly called when it was occupied by its original inhabitants. Then again, maybe this is what it was called 1,000 years after original occupation, the name changed by another group taking over after a catastrophic event wiped out the prior inhabitants. Honestly, people, we'll never know the full truth, never have complete understanding of the past, but please, please don't believe everything you're told and taught, thinking only those that are educated in an old way of thinking about the past are the only experts and that their work is gospel. These artifacts are from a very old culture not of this area. What are these pieces even doing here? It speaks to how important this location has been for thousands of years. Not only do we have a lot of stuff out of place, we have documented paranormal activity here in modern day. We have other sites within 40 kilometers of Xihuacan that are purposely lined up with the clay pyramid, again showing the importance of the location. One artifact after another that shouldn't have been found here. Look at all these Olmec artifacts. The Olmec are from an area that's 550 miles away, located on the Gulf of Mexico. Why are so many artifacts of this nature even here? Some figurines are very unusual, to say the least. Olmec. More Olmec. Many different cultures represented in the artifacts. What are those ties to this ancient multicultural site? So, the Archaeological Museum in Xihuatanejo is close to the ancient city of Xihuacan. I had to check it out and see if the area really was multicultural back then. What would I find? Sure enough, we see cultural representation in this part of Mexico from cultures that spanned a great time period and physical areas elsewhere in Mesoamerica. Look closely on this figurine's forehead. Is this abstract art or a glyph? Script? Form of writing maybe? We have yet to fully understand the Olmec writing system. Truly a unique piece, a Western Mexico coastal find. A rare Xihuacan vase in excellent condition with lots going on. We have Venus symbols, possibly other planets being represented, story after story embedded in such a small, rare piece of fired clay. The details amazing. Who was the artist? And look here. Look what we have got here. Another stylized purse of the ancients, found throughout ancient artwork all around the world. Why do so many of the ancient artifacts possess a being or anthropomorphic figure carrying what appears to be a bag of sorts? What's the significance that required it to be recorded a very long time ago and throughout many cultures all over the world? So much hidden meaning within the great detail. And remember, this was just a vase found hundreds of miles away from where it should have been found. So what was going on? Why the importance with space and time and Xihuacan? I must have taken probably about 200 pictures of this vase. I even had the curator remove it from the glass display. That took some convincing for her to do that. Some interesting subject matter for sure. My guess is as good as yours. Subjective, obviously. Everyone should be discussing Xihuacan, and yet they're not. I bet this is the first time that you've heard about this paranormal hotspot. A place of high magnetic energy readings, UFOs, strange beings seen in the area, and now a lost and forgotten past that could rewrite history as we know it. But there are problems. Getting past old ways of thinking and old ways of looking at the past are first on that list. The truth is hidden in the details. There are many little details to be investigated on the west coast of present-day Mexico. We all need to question the social scientists more. What we're told is not the truth. I'm not even sure if anything I was taught is correct. The more I investigate the past, the more I realize I was taught a big lie, perpetuated for a very long time. Thanks for watching today, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Until next time, take care, everyone.